Just see my name.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for joining our third webinar of fall 2024. My name is Dr. Megan Martin, and I am an assistant professor at Mount St. Joseph University and the higher education coordinator for MSJ's Center for Reading Science. Just a couple of things before we get started. I will email a link to the recording to all registered participants by the end of the week. And then the recording will also be available on our Center for Reading Science webpage and our YouTube channel. We also have memberships for our Center of Reading Science if anyone should be interested or you know anyone that might be interested. Some of those benefits include member-only webinars, members-only book study, there's a quarterly newsletter, access to the Center Resource Library, priority registration for our Mount St. Joseph Reading Science Summit, as well as research support. As well as you'll notice at the top part of our Center for Reading Science webpage, we do have resources for higher education. And we also invite you all to become a member of STARS HE. So STARS HE is a free collaborative group of higher education professionals. It's the group behind these monthly webinars. And the vision is really that all teachers will learn and implement the science of reading through training received in their pre-service teacher training programs and their advanced degree programs. And so we come together and we share resources and just help get that message out. So wanted to let you know that our final webinar for the fall will be in December, and the topic is developmental language disorders with Dr. Norma Hancock, and that is on December 9th at 6 p.m. Eastern. So now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce tonight's presenter is Dr. Chanel Loudermill. She is a PhD speech-language pathologist, a clinical professor, and director of clinical education in speech-language pathology at Purdue University. Chanel oversees and provides clinical education in speech-language pathology, serves as the Speech-Language Hearing Sciences Chair for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in Health and Human Sciences, and Health and Human Sciences Dean's Fellow for Faculty Success and Empowerment. Other interests include leadership, administration, and supervision in speech-language pathology, culturally responsive practices and pedagogy, and interprofessional education and practice. Chanel leads the Purdue Literacy, Education, and Practice Project, also known as Purdue LEAP, and is the project's director for an Office of Special Education Programs, OSEP, Personnel Development Program Grant. Chanel is a member of several professional organizations, such as the National Black Association for Speech, Language, and Hearing, and the American Speech, Language, and Hearing Association, or ASHA. So thank you, Dr. Loudermill. I will now turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. And Megan, thank you for that introduction. And also thank you all for having me to present today at this event. And so I will share my screen now. Let's see, and get this started here. All right, so here we go. So I am sharing today about the interdisciplinary collaboration that we have on reading science at Purdue University. And I am sharing on behalf of our team. This is a true interdisciplinary collaboration and would not be possible without the team. So I want to acknowledge the Purdue Advancing the Science of Reading in Indiana team. So just to start out and give you an overview of our programs so that you can hopefully have an appreciation of the efforts that are going into this collaboration. So Purdue University has three teacher preparation programs. So there's Purdue University Fort Wayne, and their teacher education program is within the Department of Teacher Education. They graduate about 130 students annually, They offer a BS in early childhood education and elementary education, and also an elementary degree with early childhood and mild intervention. There's also Purdue University Northwest, and their teacher preparation program is within the School of Education and Counseling. They graduate around 91 students annually. They offer BS degrees in elementary education with 2 concentrations, early childhood, special education, and elementary special education. And then there is Purdue University, the West Lafayette or main campus. And on the main campus, we have 2 colleges that graduate individuals with teacher preparation programs. So we have the College of Education, who graduates about 162 students annually, with the BS in elementary education, special education, and English language learning. And then we have programs within the College of Health and Human Sciences that graduate about 43 students annually with degrees in human development and family sciences, that offers the bachelor's in early childhood education and exceptional needs. And so that's through that program. And then we also graduate students with BS and an MS degree in speech, language, and hearing sciences. And so overall, Purdue graduates about 428 students annually with the teacher preparation programs. So our efforts are combination of faculty from all of these programs. So I wanted to start out and talk a little bit about like how we got to our interdisciplinary collaborative efforts. So of course, anyone in teacher prep, anyone in the program, the speech language hearing sciences program, early childhood programs, we all have this vested interest in reading. However, we may approach reading in different ways, but we all have a vested interest. And so we started out at Purdue, the West Lafayette main campus. Myself, another colleague, Tamar Greenwell, and then some of our colleagues in education. We started out just having conversations about reading and how we approach reading, and is there any way possible that we could work together? We started to learn a little bit about, program differences, program similarities, but we just had conversations over and over again, trying to figure out, okay, is it even possible for us to get something going? Our faculty with an interest in like reading, science of reading, we had very few in HHS, in the College of Health and Human Sciences, but we had some. And then of course there's curriculum and instruction in the College of Education, there's literacy and language in the College of Education, but none of us really worked together to educate our students. Everyone had their own classes, or they didn't have any classes that really addressed some of the issues in reading science. And so we started looking at what we had available, what we didn't have available, and really trying to figure out how we could move the needle a little bit. And then this opportunity came along for through the Lilly Endowment to advance the science of reading. And so we were all very interested in how we could do that. So what we did was we submitted to participate in, for funding with the science of reading, advancing the science of reading grant. We have a steering committee who was directed by Christy Wessel-Powell, who is also the director for the Center of Language and Literacy Education and Research at Purdue University. And then Cammie McBride, who joined the faculty a few years ago, who is also, she's a distinguished faculty. She has done a lot of work in the area of dyslexia, reading development, She worked for years in Hong Kong, and she has published a lot of research on morphological awareness and just literacy development in general. And so she and Christy are leading all of the co-PIs on this grant. So on our steering committee, we also have representation from the Purdue Fort Wayne campus, the Purdue Northwest campus, and then our West Lafayette campus. And you see across different departments and within the College of Education and the College of Health and Human Sciences. So the people that you see named here are our leads within this grant. Our efforts include all of the faculty that are within the departments that I mentioned earlier. So we have over 40 faculty that we are trying to engage in this collaboration. And like when you think about trying to engage that many people with different thoughts and ideas about how to move forward in doing things, I hope you can appreciate the level of difficulty that might bring sometimes when we're doing this, when you're trying to do this kind of work. So it is a lot of managing schedules, people, really trying to get the work done. So as a part of that, the Advancing the Science of Reading in Indiana Lilly Grant, we, during our planning, we applied for the planning grant, and through the planning grant, there was convening. We talked about external consultants and an internal assessment. So during that 1 year time, we utilized the time to plan what we would like to do as far as implementation of advancing the science of reading. So during the first year, we had lots of convening. We had multiple meetings virtually and in person to get to know each other. And I would like to just pause here and talk about how important this part of the process was. So as I mentioned earlier, all of the people that were involved, the different colleges. So we've got three universities. We've got 2 colleges. We're trying to involve 3 campuses, 2 colleges, and a host of people, and getting them involved in on getting them on the same page and moving in the same direction. But I think one key was that we didn't know each other. And even when we worked in the same department with each other, we still didn't know enough about each other's department programs. And so it was key that we hosted meetings and allowed people to get to know each other and the programs that were already available. And so we just had these, show us what you have. Let's talk about what's happening in your department. Let's talk about what's happening on your campus. Really pulling together all of our resources and allowing people to explore and learn about what is already available, what we're doing, and also creating this safe space to talk about what we might not be doing, and what would we like to have help with. In a perfect world, how could we make adjustments for us to actually do something to improve reading in the state of Indiana? We developed a collaborative plan for system-wide science of reading programming. So that convening was a very important part of this process. It was one of the first things we did, and I think it set us up for everything that we wanted to accomplish after that. And had we not done that part, I don't think we would have been successful at meeting our goals and moving forward with our plan. During our planning grant, we also looked for external consultants. We wanted to provide an opportunity for our faculty to learn from other experts in the field, and really have an opportunity to connect with them, and also give us like an independent perspective of to kind of help us move forward with our planning, and facilitate some goal setting for us. It was really great to bring in individuals that were outside of our program to kind of share some of the information. I believe that I probably spoke with over 30 external consultants trying to figure out who can we get to, who would come in and talk to us. Did it fit with their timeline? Were they available? Did it fit with what we were able to do funding wise through the planning grant? So it took a lot of time. I had to get the team to agree to having these external consultants. So that took a lot of time and effort to getting external consultants. I will say one of the positive things that came out of the external consultants is that hearing all of the consultants from various disciplines validate some of what some of our faculty were saying, some of the things that were said by different people on the team. Share some new information with some of the people on the team, share some not so new information, but it's coming from a different source and maybe it's a little more palatable. So I think all of those things happen throughout our visits with the external consultants. And it helped to bring us more in line with each other. So we had various disciplines to come in and share their expertise with us. And it also showed us that even across disciplines, that we have some of the same views and we want the same things and we can work together to improve the science to improve reading. And we also did an internal assessment. So we plan to have a survey and focus groups and get feedback from our graduates that would help us. Like now they're out teaching, they've gone through our programs, and what are they seeing and what are they experiencing as they are out in the field. And so during the planning grant, we kind of set the groundwork to move forward in advancing the science of reading. So we developed 6 goals out of all of that. And I have each one of these goals on the next slides. I'll go through each one of them. So I just have them here just to show that this is what came out of the planning grant. We were able to develop these goals and a plan for how we would implement. So we move forward with, okay, we've got this plan and now how are we going to implement this? So our first goal, we wanted to refine the science of reading content in our undergraduate teacher licensure coursework. And so we have these individual objectives that we have within this goal. So we look to examine our current courses and identify how science of reading is already being addressed and refine and enhance some areas of science of reading. And so far we have revised or created over 21 courses and added or enhanced science of reading instruction. And we've had 35 faculty to participate in this curriculum transformation process. There have been meetings, small group meetings, larger group meetings. We come together every month to discuss our progress. And we have team leads that have reported out on what's been happening in each area. We also wanted it to be clearly defined in the syllabi how science of reading is addressed. And so all of those courses, all of those syllabi have been updated and they launched this year for the academic year of 24-25. Another one of our goals was to develop STAC credentials. So we wanted to create these pathways for our students in the teacher prep programs to get the licensure required. So they can have a reading concentration or they can get a literacy endorsement upon graduation. If they would go through and take certain classes along the way, they would just get these badges to show that they have met the requirements for these different certifications. So right now we're still awaiting guidance from Indiana Department of Education because they have indicated that they will be reviewing some of these endorsements by the end of this year. And we've also created a portfolio of material for IDOE to review once they give us that guidance. So we've got these materials ready. to share with them for the STAC credentials. And we also wanted to build a foundation for 3 advanced credentials and training. So we are looking to include a reading literacy specialist, interventionist, and coach. Looking to have a master's degree in curriculum and instruction with a concentration in literacy, and ongoing in-service teacher professional development for the state of Indiana. And we right now we have a group of faculty that meet with IDOE to share our information about the STAC credentials. And we hope that once they open the credentialing back up, that we will be named as an approved trainer for science of reading. So right now in Indiana, Keys to Literacy is the approved trainer that they are using. And that's what all teachers are having to go back through and complete to get their science of reading endorsement. Another one of our goals was to create a repository of science of reading resources. And this would be for teachers in the state of Indiana or anyone who wanted access to these tools. They could have this information, they could take that training. So we've got pages within our learning management system that contain the resources related to science of reading. And this online repository, it contains the talks given by our consultants and references and any tools that have been used for presentations. We also want to launch a science of reading professional development. Purdue, we hope to host course alignment work. We have hosted a course alignment workshop. We want these trainings to be ongoing. We also hosted the 4th International Conference on Literacy, Culture, and Language. And that was just last month. There were over 150 participants, maybe 150 to 200 participants in that workshop from really nationally and internationally. Presenters, and so it really was an informative conference. We also have training on science of reading resources and curricula that we want to have this for the teachers and districts in the state of Indiana. And then we hope to provide education briefs twice a semester for current teachers and stakeholders. And this also contributes to goal 5, as we look to engage state level policymakers in the Indiana legislature and IDOE so that they can have more of a science-based approach to developing policies and making requirements, setting forth these requirements. And so those education briefs are also to help state legislators as well, especially our education committee who sends forth these different bills with the idea of helping improve this reading scores in the state of Indiana, but also not realizing the impact of some of the policies across, the board for all children. That includes English language learners, that includes students with disabilities. So really just hoping that lawmakers realize that the policies that they are setting forth could have an adverse effect on learners from different backgrounds with cultural differences. And so we really want them to take a more research-based, informed approach to making policies. Our last goal, to create research documentation. And so this was the survey, has to do with the survey that I discussed, where we have gathered responses from alumni, and we did that last year. And then we were able to present that data at the SSSR conference, the Society for Scientific Study of Reading, which we were very excited that the proposal was accepted, and Cammie McBride went and presented that work that we had done there. And really what that survey showed was that teachers that were practicing knew, they knew a good deal about phonemic awareness, phonological awareness, they knew less about morphological awareness. Um, Even though the literature tells us that there's great benefit in morphological awareness when it comes to reading and writing, but teachers know very little about morphological awareness and how to take a morphological awareness approach at in the later grades, really grades 2 and beyond, really how to address morphological awareness. And so teachers know a lot less about that. And so we can see that that's something that we need to beef up a little more. Within our goal 6, we also want to kind of look at some of the plans and course materials for evidence of science of reading understanding. And so we have identified essential assessments to collect and analyze from pre-service teachers' coursework, and identifying assessments for special education and early childhood to better help teachers that are pre-service teachers as they are out in the field, and as they are going through their training programs. Some of the other activity that we have participated in as our Science of Reading team includes the Reading League of Indiana. So their monthly meetings, we've had numerous faculty to participate in those. Cammie McBride is on the board of the Reading League Indiana. And so we've worked closely with them in having some of these talks with higher education and more faculty, getting them involved and having these discussions with those that are out in the field that are working teachers and higher education. So we really want to strengthen that relationship, that collaboration between faculty and the teachers in the field that are the boots on the ground. And we don't want them to think that once they leave the university that they don't have a connection there anymore. We want them to reach back out to the university, stay connected and stay up, and let us support them with the tools that we have. We also have, I mentioned earlier, the Center for Language and Literacy Education and Research. At Purdue, it's Clear 2. And so that is, if you visit that website, you can see where there's a lot of the research is happening. There are lots of resources on Clear 2's website. And then we have the Purdue Literacy Education and Practice Project, which is out of our Speech, Language, and Hearing Sciences department, where we have made available the tools that we use to progress monitor, and also some of the things that we use in treatment for kids with reading and writing difficulties. And so as we continue to make tools and utilize things and we see that they are effective, we are making these things available for free for anyone who wants to use them. And so that website, it's the LEAP website is being updated. Those forms are being updated there. And so they should be available soon. But right now I would encourage you to visit the Reading League of Indiana if you don't already, or the Reading League in whatever state you're in if you don't already. But also Clear 2, the Center for Language and Literacy Education and Research. And so that is a brief overview of what we are doing here at Purdue. And I'll stop sharing my screen, and I'm happy to take any questions and kind of just engage in discussion about what your efforts might be.
So I'm wondering if you would give us the insider information about the most successful aspects of this collaboration, because it's a tremendous amount of work, as you said, about 40 faculty coming together to learn together. So I'm sure you learned a lot along the way, and maybe would have done some things differently if you were just starting today. I don't know. Could you share some words of wisdom for anybody who might be trying to attempt this at their own university?
Yeah, I would hope that it's not that many people. No. So I would say that like it is a lot of people to get on board. Um, and everyone has like the work that they do already, right? Without the collaboration piece. Um, and getting getting everyone to see that if we would devote more time on the front end to planning and coordinating services, our teaching, our everything that we do, if we would spend more time on the front end, it would make all the other work that we do a lot easier. And it would just make it better. We'd have better outcomes. I would say, like, as a speech language pathologist and in our curriculum, we push interprofessional education a lot. We explicitly talk about how to work on teams. We explicitly talk about coordinated care and improving outcomes because of that. But I honestly find that piece missing in some of our education um, instruction or like in that curriculum. And I know like we all work in the same building, right? And so that's not the same thing as working together. Um, we don't collaborate. I don't think that all of our professions know enough about the other one and what they have to offer so that we can collaborate effectively. And so I would push more taking the time to talk explicitly about what it means to work interprofessionally and what that collaboration looks like. And I feel like people think they already know what it is, and we don't need to talk about it. Of course, we work together. And I just want to say, no, we don't. And we don't do it effectively. And I think we should just admit that, and we should just try to be better at it moving forward. I think we should just call a spade and say, we are not doing this. And we are not doing it to the level that we could so that we can actually improve outcomes. No one profession has to take full responsibility for this, right? Because it comes from all disciplines. And there's so much that each one of us have to offer. And it's so big that no one can lift this on their own. And so working together would really move us forward faster than trying to do this in the silos.
Well said. Do you have a school psychology program at Purdue?
So no, not we have psychological sciences and we have educational psychology,
Okay.
but so it's kind of split. So our ed psych is in psychological sciences. Some of it is in the College of Education, but they're not, we don't have anyone that is a part of this team that is in that is from psych sciences. However, Cammie McBride's background is psychology. And so we do have that perspective. So and we're kind of unique, I think, in that we like Purdue doesn't have OT, we don't have PT. Um, we have, of course, special education. We have an ABA program, but no, and we have the early childhood program, which is a little different because it is not in the College of Education. It is in Health and Human Sciences. And so it's a different kind of makeup, I think, than what is typically expected. Although, I mean, I guess you can find different kinds of makeups at across, universities.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love what you're doing to bridge the divide across those programs and departments. It's great.
There was a question in the chat about, have you thought about asking faculty to go through Keys to Literacy training? Was that a consideration?
So some of the faculty have looked at that. Some of the faculty in College of Education have looked at it. And I will say, like, as of now, I'm the only one in speech, language, and hearing sciences. So it is like little old me trying to make sure that I'm integrated into College of Ed and what's happening in College of Ed. And so some of them have looked at Keys to Literacy to see what it offers. I think the teachers have, I'll just say, like, I know this is recorded, but I don't think this is a secret. Teachers are not happy about having to go through 80 hours of training and to recertify their licensure. That has not gone over very well. The way they have to do it, and also the fact that they can't get their license if they don't do it. I understand the frustration, but I also see the value in making sure that your skills are, like, you're up to date on what we need to know now. I'm not sure if the idea of being a lifelong learner and what that means has been pushed enough at, the undergraduate level in our teacher training programs. So yes, you go to school and you learn these things, but as you are out there, you still need to continue to learn and, get and stay up on the evidence and what's out there and the changes. And so I'm not sure that we've done the best job in pushing that. Yes, everyone has to go through professional development, but what has that looked like out in the field? And how does that differ from like really what the research shows and what best practices are, the professional development that's offered for teachers? How is that different? And is that really making sure that teachers are staying up on best practices for teaching and what the science is now showing and what they need to know? Which I think that goes back to what I said earlier about teacher knowledge in morphological awareness, not even knowing what that is, and realizing how much of an impact that could have on a student's reading ability. And how much, if they knew about morphological awareness, how some of their teaching might shift because they know about what morphological awareness is. I don't know. Did I answer your question? You asked me really if teachers had thought about going through Keys to Literacy, and our faculty, and some of us have. Not me personally, but some of them have looked through that. Gosh, there was one more thing. Oh, part of what our goal is on the grant is to provide faculty with more professional development as well. And so I think that has really been good, because now people are more open to, actually going to some of these different trainings and doing things like Keys to Literacy and seeing what is available out there. And being open to receiving more information on maybe a different type of, a different viewpoint of what they see as reading science or the science of reading.
Thank you. There was another comment in the chat, and Kristen, please unmute if you need to. But she said, I love what you just said, but missed one word. No one blank has to take full responsibility for this. It was a really good quote that you said, and I can't remember the word either, but I was like, oh, I should have written that down.
Was it no one discipline or no one? I don't know. What did I say? Oh gosh. Have to go back and listen.
Something like that. I guess maybe the AI will catch it, or we can watch the recording. But I thought I'm going to write this down. I'm going to stick it on the wall in my office. I really liked that because it's an excellent point. Sometimes we do say, well, who are the two literacy people in our department? You guys need to get this worked out. And that's not going to lead to success. I love this interdisciplinary approach that you're showing us. This is how it needs to work.
Well, one thing I've also heard, like I worked in the school for 13 years. And so I do know what that's like. I know what it's like trying to collaborate with teachers and other and other professionals. And so while I feel like I've heard teachers say, well, I have to get this child to this point. And I want teachers to know, like, you don't have to do that on your own. Like, this is not a you thing, like, you got to do this. Like, you can have the support of other people, and other people can support you in this, and they should, and you should expect that. Like, you should not be the person to carry this burden on your own, because it's almost impossible. If kids are behind, it is almost impossible for one person to get them to where they need to be. It has to be a collaborative effort. um, it just does. You just, and we need to understand that, like, you don't have to own this responsibility. It should be a shared effort. So Jackie, I see your comment. You that teachers going through Keys to Literacy program would model best practices about the importance of being lifelong learners. For yeah, that.
I have to tell you a little bit about my background. I was a director of a school of education in a higher ed institution in Wisconsin. And I'm right now I'm working with higher ed faculty across the state to try and encourage them. And actually, this nonprofit, we're trying to provide support to faculty to go through a similar program to Keys to Literacy. We've developed a partnership with Keys to Literacy as well as with Letters to get more of our higher ed faculty educated on newer techniques on how to teach reading. And it's been a struggle, I have to say. I mean, some of the faculty approach it as I already have a PhD, I already know what I'm doing. Others are very receptive and have signed up for both Keys to Literacy and to our Letters offering, but it has been a struggle. And I think it's important for higher ed to be leading the way. And I really appreciate what you're doing with this collaborative effort with your grant and all of that, but getting everyone on the same page and leading the way versus having the schools, in a sense, lead the way with higher ed. And I think that's been a struggle across the country, actually.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I do think we've set out too long and waited for, things to blow up, and then trying to come back on the back end and say, hey, wait a minute, we can do this. Nevertheless, this is where we are, and it is forcing us to get our stuff together and get on board. So while it's difficult to do, and I understand the frustration with teachers, with higher ed. It's necessary for us to do. And so here's where we are, and we need to just do it.
There's another question in the chat about how faculty are covering the cost for some of this training. So is it through legislative appropriations or the grants? And I don't know what you've seen.
I will say that a lot of it is the Lilly grant, but I also say that by the time you calculate the number of people on this grant, it is not enough. And people are just having to buckle down and get it done. And some people are doing things faster than others. There are deadlines missed all the time because people are on overload. People are working on overload. Like it is not a beach. I will say, like it is an uphill battle. And we are fighting against the tide, but we're moving through it. And everybody wants, I will say that everyone wants us to be in a better place. We are working through struggles to get to where we want to be. I do think one of the greatest things that have come out of this is our openness to each other, our openness to the other disciplines, our openness to, like, just have faith in the other discipline, the other person. So that part has been great in fostering the relationship, which I think will go a long way for us. Even if we don't get every single thing out of this grant initially, that we hope to do at the level that we hope to do it. Of course, we'll do what we said we were going to do with the grant, but also hope to continually refine those things. And I think that we have a relationship now where we feel comfortable calling someone and saying, hey, I'm really struggling in this area. Can you help me with this? When before we would have never done that. And I know never ever we would have not done that. So like there's no way anybody in HHS would have called anybody in, education or vice versa to like get help with something. But now we have a level of respect for each other and their differences and know what the other person brings to the table. So I think that has been like one of the greatest things that has come out of this.
I was going to try to type it all out, but I think it depends state to state, because in Mississippi, the Department of Education actually generously offered to pay the cost for faculty at IHLs to go through the trainings at the Department of Ed's expense, as long as the faculty member would commit to completing the training. So they would say, here's the length of time and here's the dates, and you have to commit to the whole thing. We'll pay for it. And that, as with any initiative, some people were all for it, some people were really against it, but the offer was made and the results of it were positive to the point that MDE then expanded it and offered it to pre-service teachers too. I mean, they're not even working for MDE yet, but if you will do this training as a pre-service teacher, we'll pay for it, whether it's a recruiting tool or what. So I think it depends on what resources you have in the state and who your partners are too.
So the Lilly grant is paying for some faculty to implement whatever the goals they set in the grant. I do believe that the state of Indiana covers the cost for teachers to do keys to list. So they're not paying for it out of their pocket. They are paying in time, of course. But as far as anyone else that would like to get their teacher educator's license in pre-service programs, that is not covered to my knowledge. It would be great if they actually offered that.
Does your state require the FORT exam or something like that for the preschool or the pre-service teachers to pass for licensure?
I missed the type of exam.
FORT, it's an exam that to make sure that pre-service teachers understand the science of reading.
So that name does not sound familiar to me, but there is an exam. I just don't know the name. They do. So that's what they have to go back through this training and they have to take this exam again. And all pre-service teachers moving forward have to take this exam to get their educator's license.
Yeah, it's called the Foundations of Reading. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
So yeah, and so I was wondering about that has your pass rate prior to this requirement been pretty good at for your pre-service teachers passing the exam?
I don't know that. I don't have that data. Yeah, I'm sorry about I don't know that because I'm the SLP person on this, and so I don't have all the education data. Thank you, Stephanie.
Well, I commend you for working on this and getting your different disciplines together. I've always, throughout my career, I've always been kind of struck with the idea that higher ed is so siloed, but yet we expect SLPs and early childhood teachers and school psychologists and others within the school environment to collaborate, to get together, to team together, and yet we're not necessarily modeling that as best we could in higher ed.
Yeah, I mean it is very siloed as you said, and I wish we would do more instruction in really what collaborating looks like in these different settings. I do think that is a big piece of what we're missing. Um, and there was one more. Oh, I was gonna mention who our consultants were. We had Julie Washington. I don't know if that name sounds familiar to anyone. She's from University of California, Irvine. Her background is SLP, but she's now in the School of Education at UC Irvine. We had Jan Wasowitz from Learning by Design. Background is SLP also. Very knowledgeable about early literacy, phonemic awareness. We had Sonia Cabell, who is at University of Florida, Florida Research Center. And her background is special education, I believe, if I'm not mistaken here. And then also Jeanette Mancella Martinez, who is from Vanderbilt. So those were our, oh, hi, Dr. Wasowitz, you're here. That is who we had for consultants, and they were very helpful in bringing us all together. All right, thanks for having me, Stephanie. See ya.
Yes, Stephanie had to run to another meeting. But yes, I really appreciate your presentation and your talk. And I also really identified with that interdisciplinary collaboration approach. I was an SLP for 17 years in the schools. And so I know what it's like to fight for a seat at the table, that literacy table. So I just appreciated hearing your talk and all of the good work that's going on at Purdue. Are there any other questions before we close the meeting? I will get the recording uploaded to our Center for Reading Science YouTube channel, and I will email it out to all of the registered participants by the end of the week. So thank you so much, Dr. Loudermill, and it was great to see everybody. Hope to see you next month for our developmental language disorders webinar.
Also, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them or point you to someone on our team that can answer those questions, because I don't know it all. I don't have the answers to all of these questions. All right.
Definitely a team effort.
Yes. Bye. Megan, do you need me to stay on for anything?
I don't think so. That was great. It was perfect. Thank you. I can stop the recording.